Let's try a little personality quiz. Were you praised often for your overachievements as a child, or told things like, "You're so smart" and "You're so advanced for your age" from a very young age, which means that as an adult you struggle if you ever have to work even a little bit harder to attain the levels of perfection that you thought you were achieving as a child? Do you struggle to start new hobbies or goals, or branch out into new areas of study you haven't previously been a part of because you don't know how to be bad at things and not give up? Are you incredibly critical of yourself to a level that you would never be with another person but for some reason you believe is acceptable? Do you struggle to apply for jobs, particularly in new fields that you're actually really passionate about, because of the high level of competence you have to display on CVs and job applications in order to even get a foot in the door, leading you to believe that everyone will assume that you are completely competent and perfect and just throw you in at the deep end, meaning that you will inevitably embarrass yourself and be fired immediately? Do you sometimes sit on the floor and cry if your hair doesn't do what you want to that day? Do you sometimes struggle with receiving compliments when you don't think you're doing well enough because you don't think you deserve them? Do you struggle with various levels of imposter syndrome nearly constantly, even when you are noticeably good at things due to years of training and habit and practice? Do you like to take on all of the working group projects because if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself? Do you work way more than you should because you are terrified of ever being bad at things? If you answered yes to most or all of these questions, then congratulations! You too might be a perfectionist. But I promise you, it's going to be okay. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about an affliction that I personally suffer with, that I know a lot of other people do as well, and that is the scourge of being a perfectionist. Now, this is often something that children are told that they are before they even know what the word means, usually if they're very talented and or driven, and it's something that can develop for a variety of reasons. Side note, I am not a therapist or a psychologist. I do not have any formal training or degrees in therapy, psychology, child psychology, adult psychology, mental health, any of that. This is just going off my own experiences and my brief Googling research. What is perfectionism? According to the Oxford English Dictionary, perfectionism is stated as a refusal to accept any standard short of perfection. According to Wikipedia, perfectionism in psychology is a broad personality style characterized by a person's concern with striving for flawlessness and perfection, and is accompanied by critical self-evaluations and concerns regarding others' evaluations. It generally can be a wide belief that being a perfectionist is an incredibly good thing, and there is nothing wrong with striving for the best, which is actually true. Striving to achieve your best and holding yourself to a high standard is not a bad thing. The problems come in when you begin to beat yourself up, be incredibly self-critical, and experience problems like sleeplessness, anxiety, or any other health problems because of your strident need to constantly be perfect. To help you further figure out whether you might be a perfectionist or not, here are some of the most common traits. All or nothing thinking, highly critical of yourself or of others, pushed by fear towards goals or needs, unrealistic standards for yourself, focused solely on results rather than focusing on the journey and the process, depressed by unmet goals, a deep-rooted fear of failure, defensiveness, procrastination, which can often be a surprising one, but you don't want to start something until you're absolutely sure that you can do it perfectly, so you just kind of don't start it. Low self-esteem and high levels of stress. Does that sound like you? Perfectionism can present itself in a number of ways and in a number of areas. You may be a perfectionist when it comes to your appearance. I can fall into this one a lot. You may be a perfectionist when it comes to your creative art. I know a lot of artists, singers, musical theatre performers, dancers struggle with perfectionism and they struggle with the need to constantly appear at the very, very top of their game, and also with the need for it to appear effortless. I was one of those children who was naturally quite gifted at things like reading and English and singing and those sorts of things. So I got a lot of praise in those areas, and I was in advanced reading sets, I was in gifted and talented for English and French. I've always been a very good singer, and when I started receiving training I got even more praise for those abilities from other people, from teachers, from other performers that I was around. I grew up in quite a small town, which kind of exacerbated these feelings. If you like, I was a big fish in a small pond. And then when I moved to university in London and I was performing with some of the most incredible performers, I would just like to shout out my friend Samantha Bingley. She is an incredible actress and singer with one of the most stunning voices I've ever had the privilege to sing alongside, and she is currently playing Madame de Garderobe in the 25th anniversary production of Beauty and the Beast. So that's so cool. I just wanted to shout her out. I'll put her Instagram in the comments description even, so that you can see her. But yes, so when I went to university, it was a major jump for me. I really loved it. I really flourished. Being surrounded by so many other really, really talented people really pushed me, but it did also kind of feed into my perfectionist worries. There were a lot of really incredible singers in my year. Singing is kind of my thing. It's the area where I'm harshest on myself, and the thing that I've been trained the most in, and it's the thing that I hold the most personally prideful that I'm kind of good at. But I was one of a few classically trained and classical sounding voices on my course. Now you might think that this would help my perfectionism, because it's like, well, not many other people can do this, so I'm okay. But no, not many other people can do this, so I have to do it even better to A, keep up with the incredible level of talent that I'm working alongside, and B, prove that I'm amazing and prove that I am worthy of singing in this style. Don't ask me why that's how my brain works, it just is. A really big kind of catch-22 with the idea of being a perfectionist is that a lot of the time you want to appear perfect and you want it to appear completely effortless. A big thing with perfectionism is that a lot of people who struggle with it want to look like they almost don't even have to try, even if they are working, as most of us are 99% of the time, incredibly hard. This is why it can also be very difficult for people with perfectionism to admit when they need help, because it kind of goes against every single thing in their brain. I know that when I am struggling a lot with perfectionism, I can feel incredibly demotivated if I don't feel like I'm good enough at something. I can have a really strong sense of imposter syndrome, like I'm somehow a fraud and everyone is going to find out. I can kind of feel like I want to hide away almost. Conversely, I can feel like I want to push extra hard, push myself to the absolute limit and work 10 times harder to prove my worth. This can also come with the really fun side effects of irregular sleep patterns, trouble sleeping, dehydration, and anxiety. A lot of people who struggle with really chronic perfectionism can also struggle with mental illnesses such as depression, anxiety, and eating disorders. To name just a few. Those aren't the only things that you can struggle with, but they can be some common ones. So I wanted to give just a few tips on, if you are a bit of a perfectionist, how are some ways that you can help yourself to be the most productive and also the most happy and sort of peaceful in your soul, and how you can work through it successfully. So the first step is, of course, admitting that you maybe have a little bit of a problem. Like I said, holding yourself to high standards is not at all a bad thing, and wanting the best out of yourself is not a bad thing either. I think the problem comes when you want the best out of yourself, but it's to your detriment. Taking the example of me being a performer, if I have a concert that week, then of course I'm going to be working extra hard that week. and the week leading up to it to make sure that I'm in tip-top condition and that I can perform to the best of my ability. However, if I'm in this overdrive state constantly, it's going to have a really detrimental effect on my ability to work for long periods of time and on my physical and mental health. So if you are dealing with constant feelings of burnout, of exhaustion, then you maybe need to take a step back and think about how hard you're working and why. The second thing you can do is to reevaluate your standards. We are always harshest on ourselves no matter what field we're in, whether we are in the field of mechanics, aerospace engineering, maths, science, art, photography, filmmaking, religious studies. We are always the hardest on ourselves and our own work, and we are often a lot more unforgiving than we would be on anyone else in our position. I think evaluating the standards that you're holding for yourself and wondering if you really would expect anyone else to keep to these standards at the expense of whatever it is that you're doing is a really helpful way of just giving yourself a little bit of a reality check. Why do you need to be perfect? Because if you're perfect at something, there's nowhere else to go. You've kind of hit a little bit of a ceiling, and that's really boring. You don't really want to be striving for perfection. You want to be striving for the best of your ability, and you want to be striving to grow and improve your craft and yourself. For example, my hair. I am not a perfect hairstylist. However, this hairstyle is cute as hell, and I'm really proud that I did it, even though it's maybe not technically perfect. Analysing why you feel like you need to be perfect, and maybe trying to think about where it comes from, and whether you're holding those standards because of a worry of other people's reactions, or whether it's purely just that you are way too hard on yourself. My third tip is talking to other people in your same situation, whether that's other people in your workplace or on your course, whether that's finding an online forum or group chat or something like that full of people who do the same thing as you, and just talking about your feelings and talking to people and allowing yourself to be open and vulnerable can really help. And other people's outside perspective is often super duper helpful. You will be amazed at, okay, this is going to sound really weird, how low people's standards of kind of amazement is compared to your own incredibly high standards. Especially if people aren't familiar with an area of work and knowledge, the base level of what you need to do to just make them go, oh my gosh, that's really amazing, that's really impressive, wow, is like basically almost at your bare minimum, I promise you. For example, I've had performances where I've been like, oh, that didn't really go great, I don't feel like I sounded my best. And I've had people come up to me afterwards and be like, wow, you did amazing, you did so well. And I'm like, oh, you couldn't hear blah 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 blah? And they're like, no, I really couldn't. And it's like, oh, cool. No one is ever going to be as hard on you as you are on yourself, and having other people remind you of how amazing you are and how cool you are can really be a great boost. And having a safe space full of people that you feel comfortable talking about your feelings is so helpful. Speaking of safe spaces, it might, if you feel like this is interfering with your life, if it is interfering with your ability to work, to have fun, to sleep, to be motivated, to feel happy, if you feel like it's interfering with your life in any way, it might be time to consider some form of counselling or therapy. You don't need to only get those things when you are in the throes of a mental health crisis. Sometimes you can just get them to work through things that maybe you don't consider important enough but are actually affecting your ability to live your life, and that means that you are deserving of help and of a seasoned professional who's used to dealing with this kind of thing, helping you to talk through your thoughts and helping you to overcome those thinking patterns in a really great way. Number 5 is to get back to the roots of why you do the thing. Why do you draw? Why do you take photos? Why do you sing? Why do you dance? Why do you like to work on cars? Why do you love maths? Why do you enjoy creating, I was going to say potions, I meant science formulas, but potions sounds way cooler. Why do you enjoy those things? Is it because you are completely perfect at them, or is it because something about doing them and the results of them makes your heart sing, and it makes you happy, and it brings you joy, and it makes you feel all tingly and like swingy and lovely inside? Even applying this to something as simple as clothing, there can be a big emphasis, especially obviously within the vintage community. That's my experience because that's the community I'm part of. It can feel really hard not to feel like you have to be perfect all the time, and sometimes just going and picking an outfit that you feel drop dead awesome in, whatever that is, and just swinging around in it and having fun and loving the way it makes you feel can just be really important for reconnecting you with the original joy of that practice. I think that's really important when you're a perfectionist, is just to reconnect with your sort of most basic inner spirit. Number 6. If at first you don't succeed, please don't give up. Try again. This is so hard, I know, for people who really struggle with perfectionism. Sometimes, yeah, you kind of do give up on things, or you do move away from things for whatever reason, but if it's something that you really want to do, you have to go through those failures. Failures are a massive part of life. They're a massive learning experience, and they're really important on your journey. I can't tell you how many failures I've had and how many times I've been horribly embarrassed and heartbroken and like just kind of annoyed and angry and upset, but they all are things that make up the journey of life and the journey of you growing and getting better at something. Those are all of my tips for today. Those are just some of the ways that you can help to deal with perfectionism. I hope that this was helpful and possibly entertaining and useful in some way, and that you enjoyed watching it, because another area I really struggle with my perfectionism is YouTube and social media, so I'm trying to get a lot better at just doing things because I love them and not worrying so much about vanity metrics and making everything completely and utterly like perfect and all of that kind of thing and getting in my head, and just doing it because I love it, which is the original reason I started doing YouTube in the first place. If you would like to become a part of our little Vintage Darlings family, around here it might not be perfect, but it's definitely fun and full of joy and sparkliness. So you can of course subscribe and click the notification bell down below this video to become a member of the channel. You can also follow me on places like Instagram, Facebook. You can follow my covers, The Vintage Soprano, on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also donate to my coffee if you would like to further support my business and my channel. Thank you so much to everyone who has donated thus far. I cannot thank you enough. Please do remember to have courage and be kind, and may all of your dreams come true, and I will see you in my next video.